Well, the former CBN governor informed Nigerians that the CBN, I beg your pardon, that the NNPCL should be audited. And he also opined that the president should not be the minister. And he made this known during the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria conference that took place in Abuja on Wednesday. Well, Lamido Sanusi said the country needs to shine the light on NNPC in the areas of revenue generation and oil production. The finance ministry needs to know how much oil we are producing every day, selling, and where the money is going to. That's quoting Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. Well, he said the country cannot afford to continue producing oil and not receive revenue in return. Speaking further, Sanusi said Nigeria should have a petroleum minister and the president of the country should not occupy the office. Now, he's also quoted as saying, let me advise that the idea of the president being petroleum minister, let me advise against the idea of the president being petroleum minister. The last president was minister of petroleum for 8 years. And he says, when I was governor of CBN, we had a petroleum minister. So when we talk about NNPC, I could attack Diezani. Now, nobody can talk about petroleum because in 8 years, if you talk, you're attacking the president. He said a minister who is to be held accountable should be in office. And that's exactly what some Nigerians have been clamoring for. Well, we still have with us in the studio Barrister Darlington Agumo, who is a lawyer. I beg your pardon. He's a public affairs commentator. Already did say that he is a barrister. Well, joining us virtually, we have Nick Agule. Nick Agule is a chartered accountant. He has had quite the experience in the petroleum industry as well. So, Nick, once again, feels good to have you share your view on these issues. Well, Nick, let me start with you now. NNPCL not remitting to the coffers of government in the past 8 years, and nobody, it seems, nobody is raising, the stick to say, look, let us beat this industry into form. Why do you think this is so?
Thank you very much, Moses, and good morning to your co-host and my co-panelist, and good morning to our viewers. I agree with you in the intro. Having worked for over 20 years in 3 of the top 4 global oil super majors, both here in Nigeria and abroad, I think I can consider myself as an authoritative voice on matters that relate to the petroleum industry. And I can tell you for free, Moses, that the NNPC these days, they decided to add limited to their name. So the NNPCL is the problem of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. That is the fact. Anybody can decide to argue with that, but empirical evidence over the years suggests and actually points to the fact that this behemoth, this huge conglomerate, is the problem of Nigeria's petroleum industry, and is actually also the problem of the Nigerian economy. So if you look
well, we do have go ahead.
At the Nigerian economy, a few examples. The revenue problem that we have in Nigeria is caused by the NNPC, because the NNPC is not bringing in the revenue into the Federation account as they are expected to do. The foreign exchange crisis that we have in Nigeria is down to the NNPC, because the NNPC has been unable to refine crude oil and turn it into petroleum products for Nigerians to consume. So instead, petroleum products peak, Moses.
All right.
That is going to be converted to dollars, so that we will go abroad and import petroleum products.
All right.
So these comments that were made by His Excellency Sanusi are just right on the money. The NNPC is a problem of the petroleum industry, just as NITEL was a problem of the telecoms industry, up until we decided that we're going to shove them aside and open up that sector to private sector operators who have through their own investment have now deployed funds into almost every Nigerian's hands. And I'm surprised, because what I'm surprised is that I actually thought President Tinubu, as a private sector person, already knows these problems, and immediately he came into office, within no time, he was going to take action to correct the ills of our economy. And I'm so surprised that up to this moment, 6 months into his office, instead of him unbundling the NNPC, he decides to reward the man who has been there, not producing a single of a crude oil, not refining a single barrel of crude oil, with another tenure. So President Tinubu either is uninformed of the issues in Nigeria, or he decides that he's going to side with some cronies instead of the interests of Nigerians. So that's my only remarks. I can speak on and on about the NNPC, but let Nigerians, and if the president is listening to us or his handlers are listening to us, to know that the NNPC is the problem of the Nigeria's economy.
Okay, now Barrister Darlington, Nick Agule spoke about President Tinubu. I'm going to go back to former president of Nigeria, Buhari. When he was the president, he was also the petroleum minister for 8 years. And now Tinubu has taken over the mantle as well. So going back to 𝐈𝐊𝐿𝐿 when she was the petroleum minister with Goodluck Jonathan when he was the president, and then the probe that she was probed for bribery and corruption. Do you think this is the reason why the presidents have decided to take over these ministries instead of actually looking for someone who should handle that, who should be the minister of petroleum?
If they took it over to correct the wrongs in that industry, I would have been so happy. In fact, nobody would have uttered a word. If they have taken it over in order to clean up that place, my dear, you would have seen the evidence all over the place. Nobody will bother whether it is the president that is there or what. But you and I will agree here now that since he took it over, things got worse. Do not forget that Obasanjo was equally there. Obasanjo was petroleum minister for 8 years, and that was where Buhari copied his own. In the case of Obasanjo, we cannot say categorically that it was worse under him. But Buhari came and things became, in fact, unbearably bad. That was when they were stealing crude oil. The one they stole is more than the one they produced. And this NNPC official, we are so proud to come and tell us. Tell us how much that is being stolen every day. And I'm asking myself, what are you doing about this thing that you are telling us? Nobody was brought to book until they now contracted Tompolo with his Tantita to come and start policing the oil pipelines against oil theft. Can you imagine? Is it that the federal government is not aware of the people, the very people that are doing all this, or that the people are invisible? You are talking of rewarding Mene Kyari. He was the one that started the NNPC. He was the one that registered that group when he was even a student in the university. Go and check the history of NNPC. He was the one. That was why he was so proud. He had become a principality and power. That this National Assembly will summon him. Come and explain a certain 11 trillion naira that you people have not remitted. He refused to answer them. He felt so big. And now the National Assembly is threatening. It will come to nothing. Mark my word, it will come, because it happened in the past. So all this idea that any president that comes, he take over, no. That is the cash cow. That is where you can take money and nobody will ask questions. All this thing that Sanusi is saying now, that they should measure the amount of oil we are bringing out and the amount we are selling, it will never happen, because that thing will catch them. They want to leave it as it is, so that there will be no record of anything. That is a deliberate act. After all, they go to Saudi Arabia almost on a daily basis. Why is Aramco working? Do you remember that during COVID-19 or so, Saudi Arabia made more money than the god of money? That the United Nations was shouting. Saudi Arabia made more money from oil. It was that period that Nigeria was counting losses. Can't you see the contradiction? Are you telling me that the people in Saudi Arabia, they are now more intelligent than Nigerians, or they are wiser than Nigerians? No, my brother. It is because corruption has taken over every area of our lives. If you are not corrupt in Nigeria, you will never survive. Okay, NNPC has been made a limited liability company. Please, did you buy share there? Let that Nigeria that have a share in NNPC come and tell me. So who is signing the check of NNPC? Who? Limited liability company. I thought when they unbundle it, things will start looking up. When they unbundle it, things became what? They are even telling us now that the government should pay them money, that the government is owing them. A sector that's supposed to be remitting money to the government, they are now insisting that government is owing them, and nobody has asked questions. So, my dear, it can never happen. No? You mentioned that somebody work in Mobile. Please, is there any evidence to justify that? Did the Mobile tell you that that person worked with them? Is there any employment letter that shows that that person worked with them?
Okay, now let me come to, we have another guest, John Akerele, who also joins us virtually. Good morning to you, John. Now, John, welcome to the conversation. Let me take it from this angle now. When Sanusi in 2014 or 2020, made a report to the National Assembly, it was 300 pages full, talking about corruption, leakages in the oil sector. Now, he didn't name names there, but the report contained confidential government letters, private presidential correspondence. You know, it contained a whole lot.
Memos.
Yes, a lot of that was, you know, pushed to the back. What do you think the problem is here? And he also did say that led to him being removed as the governor of the CBN. But here he is, you know, lending his voice again to the anomaly in the oil sector. Do you think something will be done differently this time around? John?
Moses, good morning to you, good morning to other guests, and good morning to our viewers all over the globe. Moses, it is so sad that we are still talking about this issue. And that is to show to you that the biggest problem Nigeria is facing currently, and have been facing this time immemorial, is corruption. And if you look at it now, the same way we have multidimensional poverty, our corruption, you know, ambience also is multidimensionally complex. And that is why it is not a mere thing that the present administration and even the previous administration do not have that political will to clamp down on all these so-called corrupt individuals and cabals. Moses, let me ask you, in the same country, during electioneering, you hear that some people were arrested. and they are linked to electoral offenses. Some snatch ballot boxes, some rec officials who manipulated the results. And after the tribunal, what do you hear of the case of those people? And that has become a circle of just show of shame. That the next 4 years, and that's what people will call with that same crime. What is that saying to you? It's saying to you that we have become a nation where criminality is the order of the day, where being moral is no longer tenable until you are corrupt. If you look at it, the president today, check from the Senate to the House of Reps to his governors. How many of them say to you that some of those money who funded their campaign were from legal sources? And so when they come into office, they don't have that political will to clamp down on some people. Why? Because they were also beneficiaries of the proceeds of these things you're accusing them of. So you are saying that somebody should now clean NNPC of the mess. Do you know how much must have been spent on the electioneering process from the coffers of those people who are so-called directors and board of directors of NNPC? And it means that they are just protecting their stake. And so when you become the president, you cannot clean that mess. What you just have to do is just eat your own and move on. So for us as a country, we must come to a place. We must come to a point where we must have strong institutions, Moses. Until then, can we say that yes, even if you are the GMD, okay, look at what you are just saying, that 𝐈𝐊𝐃𝐈𝐄𝐒, what is the problem? Why can't she be tried? You know, if you know your hands are not clean, then let them be tried. But we know that we don't have that, strong institutional power here. We know that political will is lacking. Why? Because some of these so-called political leaders are also beneficiaries of the loot. There was a time we were talking about Ikoyi Gate. There are so many gates in Nigeria, including the Dasuki Gate. What happened to the Dasuki Gate till now, Moses? That's to show to you, because when the gate of Dasuki was finally opened, it is now clear that the gate linked to some people. And so the only thing they could just do is just allow the case to go down just like that. It means that the stream that flew, that came out of the Dasuki Gate, got to some junctions and everyone was settled. And so to call Dasuki to order to prosecute Dasuki now is a mess on their own part. Why? Because they were also beneficiaries of that same gate. Exactly. And so we must come to that point where we don't say, I know I'm a thief, you're also a thief. Stealing is bad, and in any form should not be, immortalized. Rather, we should have strong institutions that can bring people to book and that can show that punishment, that this is what they have done, and so we have done to them to punish them, so that to serve as a deterrent to other people who are coming behind, and younger generations can learn from that lesson.
All right then. Let me go back to Nick now. Nick, we've been talking about the president being the minister of petroleum and how that in itself is an anomaly. Educate us. What prompted that in the first place? Is it to have an oversight to over that industry because it's the nation's money-making industry? I mean, our budget, 95% of our budget is hinged on oil. What exactly prompted that, and how come we have allowed that to continue up until now?
There are actually two anomalies. The first anomaly is that we shouldn't, in 2023, be having a ministry for petroleum resources. In fact, only last year or so, we passed a bill, Petroleum Industry Act. We cannot be going to COP28, where we have over 1,000 delegates sitting there talking about climate change, and we're focusing on petroleum, fossil fuel, that is a major contributor to global warming. Instead, Nigeria should have an energy ministry for energy, so that we are holistically looking at all the energy sources that are available in Nigeria. Of course, petroleum being one of them, but now the world is transitioning. And so we should be looking at the water bodies that we have, for hydro, wind, solar, biofuels. They should all have directors in the Ministry of Energy so that they develop these energy sectors, and Nigeria becoming the world's global suppliers of them, because we have all of these energy sources that I am mentioning in abundance. So that's the first anomaly. The second anomaly is the one you have rightly pointed out, that the president being the minister for petroleum. These are the areas where I'm concerned about the trajectory that President Tinubu is actually charting. I actually thought, as a private sector person, like I said, he was going to come to chart a different direction. Look, there is nothing special about the Ministry for Petroleum. We make the president say, I must be the minister. There's nothing special about the ministry. If the president can cede finance into the hands of a minister, then why would he not see the petroleum? If he is not the minister, the person that is the minister for petroleum is basically not going to do anything in that ministry except the president approves of it. So holding on to this ministry, caressing it, putting it close to his chest, suggests that there's something special about the ministry that the president wants to protect. There's nothing. I think it's ignorance that is making successive Nigerian presidents to hold on to this portfolio, except for, of course, President Jonathan, who didn't hold on to it. And the other presidents that held on to this portfolio should ask themselves, when President Jonathan was not Minister of Petroleum, was there anything that he was not in charge of in that ministry if he wanted to? Of course, there was nothing. So President Tinubu should just let a minister be in charge of energy in Nigeria, so that the minister can actually develop the agenda, execute it. As we speak today, Moses, as we speak today, we are burning our gas in the Niger Delta. The gas, as we speak now, the fires in the Niger Delta are burning away our gas. But Nigeria is only supplying 3,000 megawatts of electricity to an economy of over 200 million people. Brazil, our counterpart that has a population like ours, 200 million people, they are supplying 150,000 megawatts. Check 150,000 megawatts versus 3. I mean, Dubai, where they are now, there are about 10 million people in the United Arab Emirates. The electricity supply is 30,000 megawatts. That means 3,000 megawatts for about 1 million people. It is the same 3,000 megawatts for 1 million people that President Tinubu and his team, who is sitting in Dubai now, are supplying to 200 million people. And the only way the economy can grow is electricity, and they are not talking about it. Successively, Nigerian presidents have taken their eyes off the ball of the fact that without adequate electricity supply, Nigeria's economy will remain in a coma. And that's what it is. There are no two ways about it. I want anybody to come forward and contradict me. Like I said, I have been in this industry almost all my life. I want anybody to contradict me that with 3,000 megawatts of electricity, Nigeria will be able to develop our economy. And we can have a debate.
It's not possible.
You understand? So, all these things are coming from the fact that the president is sitting on a portfolio that he doesn't have time to oversee. And because he doesn't have time, that sector, that energy sector, remains comatose. So the president just give way, appoint a minister, appoint minister of state, appoint people who will develop the agenda, bring it to him, you approve it, and then they will go and execute it. Otherwise, if we keep doing the same thing and expecting
this president has not categorically, this president has not categorically said that he is the minister of petroleum. He has not openly said that. He just hasn't appointed a minister for that industry.
Then the question is why? Why would the president not appoint a minister for the most important industry in Nigeria. Because like, no, look, like I said in my opening, Moses, this energy sector is what is causing Nigeria's biggest problem. Number one, I have identified electricity. Let me tell you, Moses, at 3,000 megawatts, Nigeria's economy will remain small, will remain in this multidimensional poverty till all of us leave this stage. I can bet you. I have money on the table. If somebody wants to
No, you are
continue, let them
correct, my
come forward
brother.
and
You are
do
correct.
that. So that is number one. Number two,
I've discussed it.
Number two, what I'm saying is that, like my co-panelist said, when you produce crude oil and the crude oil is totally stolen, you're not getting value for it. The Emir, His Excellency Sanusi, talks about metering. Look, he's probably not aware that there is metering all the way. I work in the oil industry. I work for 2 oil companies in Nigeria. You understand? And I want to assure him that there is metering from the wellhead. Right from the wellhead where the crude oil comes off from the ground, there's a meter. And then that wellhead flows that crude oil through a flow line to a flow station. A flow station is a gathering station. At that gathering station, there is a meter. Whatever is leaving that flow station into a pipeline is metered. And then as the crude arrives at the terminal, it is also metered. And as the crude leaves the terminal to go to the export pipeline, is metered. When the crude arrives on the export tanker, the tanker that is actually taking, is also metered on that tanker. There's metering all the way. Who say there's no metering? Do you understand? So if to deal with the issues, the president has to be courageous. Right, he has to be smart. I don't expect him to know everything, but he can gather people around him who can tell him everything.
All right.
And he has to have the courage to take the decision.
All right, Nick, we'll have to take the views of other guests in the studio.
Yeah, Barrister Darlington. So, spoke about transparency. Why hasn't the administration questioned former president of Nigeria, Buhari, seeing that he was the petroleum minister for 8 years? Why is the Senate not coming out to say, give us accountability? Let's see how this how this happens, so that at least we know that Nigerians will know what is happening, and they won't feel like, okay, the reason why the presidents are becoming the petroleum ministers is because maybe they have something to hide.
Yes, you know why? Because you are not in a democracy. In fact, Buhari's regime was akin to a military regime. That was why the Punch newspaper was calling him General Buhari. You know, in the military, you don't question what they do. And Buhari, in fact, he validated it by his actions. Every action Buhari took, mention any of them that the National Assembly called him to order. You cannot. And I ask myself, where we copy this democracy? Was it like that? The answer is no. So your own democracy in Nigeria is a dysfunctional one. All these things that people are talking that this one happened, this one did not, is because you are not in a democracy where you are accountable to the people that elected you. How many of you got into office with your vote? That is why they don't have any accountability to you. They know that you don't matter in the question. They know that they will not, in fact, they may get to office even without your own vote. That is why all this rascality is going on. If they know that, look, during the election, during the next election, the people will be angry with us, so they will not behave like this. So they know they will get into power, whether you vote or not. That is the major reason why they are behaving like this. If your vote to count, and they are afraid of you, they respect you, my dear, they won't do what they are doing. They can't even try this. America, as big, as powerful as they are, their president fear their people. They fear their laws. They can't contravene it and get away with it. But here, look at what is going on. A president feels so big that he does not have to account to anybody. Just do whatever he likes. If you could collect that kind of money from Emefiele, what makes you think you will not do worse things? So it's about accountability. We don't have leaders who are accountable to the people. And it is like that because your democracy is dysfunctional. We are not in a democracy. And I can debate it with anybody. This election that you got is just a ceremonial show of democracy. We are not practicing the real democracy as we copied it from America. That is why these things are like this. That is why a president will take irrational action. And the National Assembly that's supposed to checkmate him will just concur, rubber stamp it. So what type of democracy is that? Is that a democracy? It's not.
All right then.
We are not in a democracy.
All right. Let's take John's. John, let me come to you now. Nick did say something about opening up the sector to private, opening up the oil sector to private sector participation. Licenses have been given. Well, licenses have been given to private individuals, private entities to refine oil as well. But we don't see that happening. Are they being hindered? What is preventing that? In your view now?
Moses, for me, if you look at the issue that license has been given, let me ask you that same question. How many people do you know that have been given license? When you do your actions and your actions are, surrounded with so much secrecy, people do not believe what you say to them. So what is so cumbersome about licensing that cannot be in the public domain? What is so cumbersome about licensing that we cannot know as Nigerians? That is the number of people with licenses, either to refine crude oil or to airlift or to have. Let everything be on the table. And so when we are having issues, Moses, we can call people on their names. We can know where these issues are coming from. NNPC is telling you that about 1 million barrels per day, Moses, is stolen. Now, how did they steal this crude oil? For you to steal crude oil, Moses, it's not all this 25 liter we use. It's really
big tankers.
It's really. I want to. There's a name I'm trying to get in my head to give to that. It's really a coven of technocrats who are experts even in the oil industry, and so. If you must curtail the bunkering, the stealing, who are those who steal? A tanker is 33,000 liters, Moses. And these people steal in tankers. Where did they sell it to? So it's actually a network, and this has been on for over a decade. Moses, some people have built all of their dynasty on this illegality.
Exactly.
And so when you want to cut it off, they will resist. But what I want to say is, until we have that strong political will, but even you as a president, when people do not perceive you to have even emerged in a free, fair, credible election, then do you have that guts to call other people to order?
Right,
and so they also say to you, you say I'm a thief. Even you too, you are a thief. And that has been the story for all of our political class. If you bring up an of corruption against a candidate, they say to you, is it the only one? We are not even looking at the fact that there's a corruption case against you, it invalidates all that you are. But we say, is it the only one? So now we judge people based on how much they are able to steal from the system. But for Moses is really sad that we have come to this point. But then what I think we should do is that we should keep holding our government officials accountable.
All right.
Asking questions and making the process of governance transparent and open so that we can deliberate on it.
Conversation, but we are pressed for time.
Let me add to what he said.
Okay,
the modular refinery he's talking about, Edo have completed their own.
Okay.
There is another one in Imo State, I think on 𝐈𝐍𝐃𝐈𝐄𝐒. They said that any NPC have refused to supply them crude. That of Edo, they said they have not gotten order from above. That was what any NPC replied them. Some have completed. Exactly, yes. That is independent. I discussed it on a platform. I said, look at that. So how will other people now step in? It's like you are giving somebody a goat and you are holding the rope. They just want to promote to Dangote and leave the other people. After all,
Dangote has not received crude. He just received crude.
But government paid 20% in his refinery. Even the modern refinery, my dear, are learned from petroleum expert that it is only diesel. It is only diesel that they will produce.
We'll have to anchor this conversation here because we have another and we are pressed for time. Well, up next on VOP this morning.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, 𝐖𝐈𝐊𝐄 has said he would not be distracted by the protest against him Details when we return.